I've tried to name it. For a while, I tried to call it Lachlan. It's a name that I actually stole from a person I once knew, a piece of my past. It belonged to this fleeting shape that vanished from my sight so suddenly and so long ago. The imprint it left behind has long since faded today. He left my life without so much as an explanation or a trace. Just gone, without a reason. Transformed into a forever unsolvable mystery, occupying some dark back corner in my mind. Perhaps that's what made me believe I could steal from him. Perhaps I felt he owed me that much at least. After invading my life, taking up so much space and ripping himself right out of it, stripping me of its main meaning at the time. I deserved something in return for that. But perhaps that's the problem. Perhaps you should be careful what you wish for. It didn't appreciate being named after him, I know that now. It punished me. Honestly, a human name is an insult. I should have known that. These days, I call it Kelpie. And it seems content with that. Sometimes I wonder if it named itself, because when I decided to call it Kelpie, I didn't even know what a Kelpie was. Because Kelpie isn't a name, it's a creature, a myth. It's a story. I looked it up, of course, not at all prepared for what I would find. The depiction of that bleak, black, horse-like frame grinning back at me from the illustrations picked for the Wikipedia article that was undoubtedly chosen for how well it conveyed the unsettling creepiness of the source material. But the concept of a Kelpie stems from it really felt too spot on to be a coincidence. Sometimes I wonder if it came from him, from that poor, skimpy boy I loved as a teenager. I was his personal nurse more than his girlfriend, caring for this human shell that seemed to have been drained dry by some cruel ailment the healthcare system of England where he lived didn't quite fully understand yet. I'd throw them a bone and point out that this was over 10 years ago, but I honestly doubt the situation has improved much. Then again, maybe they didn't understand it because it was a true mystery, a myth. Kelpie. No, it's not some Scottish horse mimic living in the shallow waters, luring the innocent down to drown, promising the children a fun ride on its back. But it's honestly not too far from the truth either. It doesn't surprise me that it either manipulated me into calling it Kelpie or just approved of the name after I chose it. So what is it? Hard to tell. I don't know much about it, and I have a suspicion that's because it doesn't want me to know. I know that it's an entity of some kind. I know that it latches onto people. Shall I call it a spirit? Let me check the energy in the room right now as I type that out. I can feel a weight on me. I'm not surprised to feel that. I know it does that when it knows I'm checking for its presence. Because it wants me to know that at least. That it's there. That it's always there. But that familiar weight isn't something I interpret as a negative reaction on its part, so I will assume that it's fine with being referred to as a spirit. I'm pretty sure it's not a completely unique thing. There are more like it. Or spirits. Probably different spirits. If I'd classify Kelpie somehow, I'd say that it's an energy leech. It's vampiric. It seeks out humans and it latches onto them and feeds on their energy. I know it does that because I can feel it doing it to me. And if it is as I suspect, it was doing it to my skimpy train wreck of a long-distance boyfriend way before I came along. I think it was his mother, if I were to guess. Messing with things she didn't understand. Probably didn't fully believe in. Taking part in occult pastimes, fancying herself some spiritual expert. At least trying to sell herself as one to her friend circle. Hiding the fact that she was a charlatan all along. Or a false charlatan. Not believing in the work she was doing, unaware of the damage she was causing. Following instructions spread carelessly around that never should have become common knowledge for the exact reason that it might end up in hands like hers. She must have drawn so many of them to her. They probably swarmed around her. That would be my guess. And probably the reason Kelpie, when it arrived a bit late to the party, opted to go for her son instead. It's never liked company, Kelpie. If I ever had anything in the form of a guardian, Kelpie chased it off ages ago. It doesn't share. But he was weak, and by the time I strolled into that cursed place as a completely oblivious 19-year-old love-struck fool, Kelpie had drained that boy dry. Unprotected and unaware, young and ripe at the time, I was a logical target to transition to. I must have had a much stronger source too, because Kelpie couldn't have been with that boy for more than 5 years by then, and he was already at the point where I, as his 2-year senior girlfriend at the time, even had to comb his hair for him after he took a shower because he didn't have enough energy to lift his arms to his head and do it himself. I remember pulling that old comb through his wet, thin, long, just tangled hair as carefully as possible, terrified of causing pain. I cared for him. I loved him. I touched him. I attached myself spiritually to this boy, and I built the bridge that Kelpie used to abandon his sinking ship and latch onto a yet untapped source of energy. Yeah, he must have been very weak. Maybe some other spirit got to him first and Kelpie chased him away. Though, I don't see Kelpie going for sloppy seconds, it's too proud for that. Something was up with that boy though. Or perhaps something is up with me. Because I've carried Kelpie with me through my life since then, and it's been over a decade. By now, I'm starting to see it. starting to see myself on the edge of that bed, wrapped in a white towel, half embarrassed and half in a trance from whoever decided to step in, taking on my role, doing my mundane tasks for me that were finally out of my reach. I can see it waiting for me there in the distance. But I'm not quite there yet. And it's been over a decade. Yeah. I must have had a lot to offer. It's almost all gone now, because what can you do? As a simple human, what do you do? This isn't your typical horror story with the panic and the scrambling to break the curse, the desperation and desire to do anything to save yourself. No. It takes hope to write that kind of story. And there never was any hope in this. This isn't a story to entertain you, this is a warning. I don't want to fascinate you, I want to scare you. I want to tell you that it is so easy. You don't see it coming. Not until long afterwards. Not until it's too late. Way too late. It could already be too late. And you wouldn't know. We're powerless. That's the awful truth we can't deal with. Even in the horror stories where the victims lose and die in the end, there was always still that hope. They had that opportunity. They tried to fight back. They tried to survive. They tried something. Even if it was just to run or to scream. And here I am, dying from this thing that killed me over a decade ago. And there was never a moment that I resisted. Even though I can feel it all the time. Even though I can see it clearer and clearer the closer I get to my ultimate fate. After all, I've seen it before. I know. I know. I do nothing because there's nothing to do. Scream, run, punch the air. What's that gonna do for me? Nothing. I don't do anything to fight back because there's nothing in my power that would even count as fighting back. I leave this for you to shake your beautiful little world. I leave this for you to find after I'm gone. Gone. Like my England boy. No trace. No reason. No motive, just vapor. We don't want to admit what we are. We keep weaving these stories about ourselves where we're more than powerless sustenance because we don't want to believe it. It's too bleak. It's too true. It's too horrifying. It just breaks us to believe it. Even thinking of ourselves as prey would be preferable, but we can't even claim that. We're more like plants for them to graze on. Like warped, dark horses brought to life by artists illustrating the ideas, ancient words passed down generation to generation, origins utterly lost to time. The least we can do is make ourselves taste a little more bitter. So I hope you take this truth to heart, soul crushing as it may be, and let the fear sours you. Enjoy, Kelpie.